In Guatemala, Bernardo Arevalo and Karina Herrera were sworn in as president and vice president with an over 8-hour delay. In Palestine, the Israeli regime continues its relentless siege against Gaza for the 101st day. Authorities registered more than 60 Palestinian civilians killed in the last hours. And in the United States, millions face freezing temperatures across the nation as storms move in from the Arctic. Hello, welcome from the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. With an over 8-hour delay, Bernardo Arevalo and Karina Herrera were sworn in early Monday morning as President and Vice President of Guatemala after having overcome a series of judicial obstacles raised since they went to the second round in the general elections in mid-2023. The President was sworn in by Samuel Perez of the Semilla movement, who was previously elected as President of Congress of the Republic after a process that took several hours. The authorities took office for the constitutional period 2024-2028. The ceremony was attended by several presidents and heads of government, in addition to high-level delegations from different countries. During his speech, President Arevalo called to transform the country's political panorama, adding that in recent months there had been a resurgence of old dictatorship habits due to the attempts of different sectors that sought to prevent the arrival of his government.
During this past month, we have faced complex tensions and challenges that led many to believe we were destined for an authoritarian reversal for thousands of people. This month suggested the resurgence of dictatorship in Guatemala. However, the people of Guatemala have demonstrated their wisdom and fundamental institutions, such as the Supreme Electoral Tribunal and the Constitutional Court, have protected the sovereign desire of Guatemalans to live in democracy.
During his inauguration speech, Arevalo also assured that they would not allow violence and authoritarianism to be used as a means to preserve political privileges or promote political agendas.
The support of the democratic nations of the world have been crucial, allowing us to be here today and allowing me to ratify our first great commitment. Never again authoritarianism. We will never allow violence to be used as a means to promote political agendas or preserve privileges. We will not tolerate intolerance and arbitrariness. We will not allow our institutions to bend again to corruption and impunity.
On the other hand, President Arevalo promised that investments would be made in public services with the hope of generating stability and in the population and new jobs in the country.
We will make significant and responsible investments in fundamental services such as electricity, water, sanitation, and housing. These are not only rights that we must ensure for every inhabitant of Guatemala, but also the generation of these services will create thousands of new jobs throughout our territory.
The Guatemalan president particularly stressed that he would focus on improving the quality and effectiveness of services in the health sector.
We will expand and improve access to and quality of health services, guided by health promoting principles, universality and progressivity, in order to improve the well-being of all members of our household. We will implement and maintain a program that allows the state to ensure vaccination and access to medicines, including those essential to treat chronic diseases.
Ecuador controlled and quelled this Saturday a number of prison riots that broke out simultaneously amid this week's wave of criminal violence. The government also released more than 150 hostages who had been held hostages by the inmates. Through a message on the social media X, Ecuador's President Daniel Noboa confirmed the release of all the hostages who had been held in the prisons of the cities of Esmeraldas, Latacunga, Ambato, Cuenca, Azogues, Loja, and Machala since the beginning of the week. The riots had become the focus of ongoing violence that broke out on Tuesday with a series of attacks in different parts of the country. According to the authorities, the riots of the last 5 days claimed the life of at least 4 people, among them a guard and 3 prisoners. Journalists Association of El Salvador records 82 aggressions against journalists using the state of exception. The association denounced an increase in hostility and threats against journalists while covering and investigating in the context of the state of exception. A total of 82 aggressions against journalists while carrying out their journalistic work of reporting graphic documentation and investigation have been registered by the Monitoring Center of the Journalists Association of El Salvador since the state of exception began on March 27, 2022 until December 31, 2023. In some cases, a police or military authority prevented them from carrying out their work in public spaces, using as an excuse the application of charges of unlawful associations. According to Gabriel Labrador, Rapporteur for Freedom of Expression, the violations of freedom of expression in the country had been committed by the police, and the violations, aggressions, and harassment towards journalists and media in general have worsened with the implementation of the state of exception. Also in El Salvador, health authorities warn about a considerable increase in the number of patients detected with COVID-19 and other seasonal respiratory diseases during the last 2 weeks. El Salvador's health department reported an increase of 31 positive cases of the disease in the country and reiterated the government's commitment to attend the most vulnerable people at risk of developing the disease. However, they did not discard the possibility that the JN1 subvariant is already present in the country, so tests were sent to the National Health Institute to identify the variants that circulate in the nation. According to the Minister of Health, Francisco Alavi, 100% of the residents in senior centers have already been vaccinated and urged families to vaccinate their elderly in order to prevent respiratory infections caused by different viruses. World Health Organization Chief Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus is scheduled to talk about disease X next week at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. Back in May 2023, Tedros spoke of the possible emergence of disease X, a virus not yet known to cause disease in humans, which could emerge as a new pandemic expected to be 20 times more deadly than COVID-19. A debate on this issue is set to take place next week, on Wednesday, January 17th. Keynote speakers along Tedros will be, among other experts, Brazil's Health Minister Nícia Trindade Lima, an official from the AstraZeneca company, the laboratories that developed one of the vaccines against the SARS-CoV-2 virus responsible for the COVID-19 pandemic. Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at TeleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Well, the story is coming up. Stay with us.
Deep gazes filled with struggles and stories. Struggles that transcend generation. Know the deepest realities through its protagonists on TeleSUR documentaries. Sunday. Only on TeleSUR.
TeleSUR is the voice that speaks up in defense of the people of Latin America and the world. For me, it is a media that offers different perspectives. It invites us to reflect and question the hegemonic narratives. From the fight against poverty and social exclusion to the defense of human rights and social justice, TeleSUR is more than just a television channel. It's a platform that celebrates our people's diversity. It inspires us to be more informed, more aware, and committed to the construction of a better world. Hello, welcome to From the South.
Hola, soy Aisa García. Tú y yo tenemos una cita cada semana para conocer tradiciones, costumbres, valores, sonidos y ritmos, símbolos y el gran abanico de las expresiones culturales que nos forman, que tienen origen en el alma de los pueblos y nos dan identidad. Esto y más te contamos en Vidas, cada viernes, solo por TeleSUR.
On Monday, the Israeli regime continued its relentless siege against Gaza for the 101st day. Authorities registered more than 60 Palestinian civilians killed in the last hours. At least 42 people were killed in Gaza City after Israeli warplanes bombed two homes in Al-Sabra and Al-Zaytun neighborhoods. 33 other Palestinians, including children and women, were killed in attacks in the southern area of Khan Yunis as well as in the Bureij and Al-Maghazi refugee camp. Since October 7th, Israel has killed over 24,100 civilians, mostly women and children, while more than 60,000 have been wounded and around 8,000 remain missing under the rubble. The situation in Gaza continues to deteriorate. Main hospitals cannot cope and are forced to send the wounded to small ones. In addition, they do not have the necessary medical equipment to treat their patients. Our correspondent in Gaza, Nur Harasin, with the details.
Day 101 of the Israeli offensive on the Gaza Strip, and today we are in central Rafah city, exactly in and opposing the Al-Kuwaiti hospital. The thing here is that Rafah city do not technically have its own medical complex, its own hospital. The only hospital available here in Rafah is the Abu Yusuf al-Najjar hospital, and it is a 2 floors, very small hospital that was built to perform just first aid for patients and some surgeries like C-section for pregnant women. However, this very small hospital is now operating as Rafah's main hospital, adding that there is small clinics and medical clinics around the Rafah city that are also now forced to perform as hospitals with the lack of medicine and medical supplies. Actually, whenever there is an attack in Rafah, they bring the injuries and they put them outside of the hospital because there is no places inside the hospital. And this shows how the situation in Gaza is actually deteriorating. According to the Egyptian sources, 9,008 trucks entered the Gaza Strip since the beginning of this offensive. However, even though the number sounds that it is very big, it does not meet the needs of the people. 9,000 trucks is actually only 10% of Gaza's needs. Gaza need 1,008 trucks a day, not 108 trucks a day, just to meet the needs of the people. Nur Harazin, TeleSUR, Gaza.
In Gaza, it's been 101 days since the start of the Israeli genocide, and the United Nations organization is demanding an end to the aggression against the Palestinian people. In a statement, the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestinian Refugees in the Middle East deplored the massive destruction, displacement and killing of Palestinian civilians, mostly children, as a result of the persistent Israeli aggression in the Gaza Strip. The agency urged for the need for a ceasefire and to ensure that humanitarian aid reaches all those affected. The UN agency also condemned Israel for the physical and psychological scars inflicted on the Gaza population, which they say will take years to heal. Meanwhile, Palestinian officials have denounced that over 800,000 Palestinians are at risk of starvation due to the Israeli policy of limiting the entry of food into the Gaza Strip. They have stressed the need to allow the entry of larger quantities of basic supplies such as food, water, and medicine. The Palestinian officials said the international community, especially the United States and Israel, are to be blamed for the impending catastrophe and whatever death may result from famine and thirst. In Palestine, heavy rains leave displaced people without shelter after flooding from sewage waste. Facilities sheltering thousands of displaced people next to tents in Jabalia, Beit Hanun, and Beit Lahi were submerged due to the rains, while flooding shelters in government and UNRWA schools, along with shelters in the towns of Khan Yunis and Rafah. Therefore, displaced families urge international agency and the World Health Organization to interfere to stop the Israeli siege and provide shelters to protect civilians against weather conditions. On Sunday in South Africa, the legal team that attended the International Court of Justice was welcomed at the Johannesburg airport. South Africa's legal team on Thursday presented its legal arguments before the International Court of Justice, the UN's highest court, to demand urgent precautionary measures against Israel, which it accuses of having genocidal intent in its war on Gaza, and demands an end to the bombing of the Gaza Strip. The team of legal and academic experts appointed by Pretoria is headed by John Dugar, the South African professor of international law and former UN rapporteur on human rights in the occupied Palestinian territory. The case centers on the violation of the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide, adopted in 1948 and enforced in 152 countries. On Sunday, Yemen's Houthi rebels accused U.S. and British forces of bombing a facility in the Al-Lahiyah district north of the city of Al-Hudaydah. This weekend, Washington and London carried out a large-scale offensive against Houthi targets in response to the group's attacks on shipping lanes in the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden. The Netherlands, Australia, Canada and Bahrain provided logistical and intelligence support for the air assault, and Denmark, Germany, New Zealand and South Korea signed a joint statement justifying the U.S. and British actions. According to a member of the Houthi group's Security Council, Abdul Salam Jahaf, the bombings targeted Sana'a, Al-Hudaydah, Damar and Sada. In addition, there were reports of explosions in the city of Taiz. We now have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience, you can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with TeleSUR. For a short break, don't go away.
For me, TeleSUR is an example of resilience because we have faced many difficulties in all areas. We are still here. It is also creativity from our content to the strategies we use to reach the screen every day. We are more than just a TV station. We are the communication link between Latin American borders, and we showcase the reality of our continent to the world. It is a sacrifice, but it is worth it, as everything that is made to last.
Every year, thousands of people leave their homeland to reach new horizons. A reality of those people who struggle for their freedom. Know the diverse causes of those who live between borders. Thursdays, only on TeleSUR.
Welcome back from the south. Millions face freezing temperatures across much of the United States as storms move in from the Arctic. The storm has killed at least 4 people in the past few days, caused power outages for thousands in the northwest, snowfall in the south, and the suspension of flights, work, and sports activities in much of the country. Meteorologists said they predicted that the worst part of the storm could send icy winds into the mountains and the Dakotas. In this context, New York Governor W.H.O warned residents to stay indoors to protect themselves from the freezing temperatures. In Colombia, at least 40 people were killed on Friday when a landslide swept away an indigenous community in the northwest of the country, increasing the list of 30 people injured so far. Meanwhile, the government of Gustavo Petro promised all available aid to those affected, according to a new assessment of the events as the search for more victims under the mud of water continues. Some national government officials said the president